amazing ladies, and welcome to the HerStory podcast. I'm your host, Kylie King, and today I am joined by the amazing Jane Tweedy from FAQ Business Training. Thank you so much for joining me from Western Sydney today. How are you going?
I am good, thank you.
So let's get started so the listeners know. Can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure, no problem. So as you said, my name's Jane. I am currently living in Western Sydney, have been for about the last nearly 10 years, I think. So I am originally from New Zealand, so you might catch the accent every now and then. So from there, I moved over here in 2008 and was initially in Sydney CBD and sort of moved further away as time has progressed. And when I first moved to Sydney, I was working in investments and financial markets. And I moved out of that after about 5 years and moved into the small business space. And initially was intending to become a buyer's agent of all things. So to get involved in property because I did like that, but I'd always wanted to be in small business. And I wrote down a little goal one year to work more with small businesses. And then a role came up with the Small Biz Connect program at the time. And that wasn't what I meant. But I was like, okay, actually, I'll give this a go and have a look. And in some of my past roles, I had worked with small businesses. And I thought, okay, this sounds interesting. And it was like, oh my God, I have found my calling. And it was just literally that. And I just loved it. I'm very much a believer of Ikigai, the reason for being. Find something you love, you're good at, you can get paid for, and the world needs. Done. Sorted. And that was how I fell into business coaching and business training.
Beautiful. What a way it led you to that role popped up and you're like, yes, I'm going to give it a go. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It was funny actually, because there was a particular group that I used to write things down for. Sometimes we used to say things like, I'll put that out to the universe. And yeah, sometimes you got to be careful how you frame what you're putting out to the universe, because sometimes it gives you not quite what you intended. So maybe be a little bit more, elaborate a little bit more, and then you'd get more along what you wanted.
I think that's very important, just on a tangent for any manifesting. So I remember that I wrote down once because my kids wanted a horse. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And the next thing for Christmas, they ended up with this big plastic water knock that was like not exactly what they wanted at all. And now it takes up valuable space in my house. So as you said, make sure you're very clear on what you're going for and, put it out there properly. So what does FAQ Business Training do? What services does it offer?
So I do have FAQ Business Training and FAQ Business Consulting. So it is all under the same big banner of the same company, but the idea is to split that kind of up a little bit. So the training side is very much focused on online training, very bite-sized, and I'm actually just migrating that at the moment. There was an example in COVID I saw where there was one particular person that had done, I can't remember if it was 150 or 250 webinars during that COVID period. And the thing is, you're going, seriously, how much did you really learn that you actually put into action? And I see far too many people of that. Like I know Kylie runs a group in Penrith. And when you put out a survey and things and you say, okay, what do you want to know about? How many times do we hear marketing, marketing, marketing? Everyone says marketing. And I'm like, but how many marketing workshops have you been to? And how many have you actually implemented something from? So FAQ Business Training is very much moving towards a DIY toolkit model. So very much instead of a 2-hour training session, 15-minute training, and actually implement it. So you can do it with a little bit of a done for you template, checklist, whatever, in 25 minutes. So in a Pomodoro session, you can actually do something, because I'm very much about action taking, very much about you've got to do and stop learning. So even though I'm a trainer, one thing I'll tell you right now, don't sign up to the next training course until you've done something from the last one you attended.
Yes, I love that. It's all about action. There's no point if you're not going to take action to do it. No, that's amazing. I love that. So what has been your biggest challenge so far in business?
Well, the biggest challenge has definitely been the last 18 months for me. So unfortunately, I have had long COVID. I have had chronic pain from a back issue, and it has just been horrifically bad timing, chronic fatigue, burnout, all that fun stuff, brain fog, which has meant that it was right before I just managed to launch the sort of semi-passive elements of my business, which sucked. And it meant that, you need to keep the bills coming in. I have to dedicate time to the paid activities. Can't spend the time on the stuff that hopefully will make me a lot of money in the future. But can I take the gamble when I only have limited hours? No. So that's been actually the worst challenge, has been dealing with the last year and a half, that balance between health, finance, the fact that I'm an extrovert, I get energy from other people. It's really hard to balance it all together. And that's been absolutely the worst period of my business career.
Do you think as well that may have contributed to burnout is the fact I feel like we all came out of COVID and all business owners were just like sprinting now, like they're sprinting to play catch up. So I'm noticing a lot of other business owners that are saying they're feeling burnt out, but it's because they're now sprinting. Are you finding that in your business coaching and training?
So I was burned out right before I got COVID. I had actually had a period of burnout, a couple of months. And that was really due to the fact that when COVID happened, because at the time I was in a government-funded advisory role, what was happening was I dropped down to a sort of 2-day-a-week part-time contract gig with them to a double full-time load when COVID started. So I literally was doing 9 a.m. in the morning to 9 p.m. at night, no gaps. And what I did, one of the best things I did at that time was I purchased a Kogan smart kettle. And so what I could literally do was quickly on my phone, go and set the kettle off, go up to the toilet, go to the kettle that had already boiled, come back to my desk and round that trip out in like 2 minutes. And that was nuts. So of course that's going to burn you out, but also because of the stories that you were hearing. And one of the things that I did during that time is we got offered to do the mental health first aid training. And so I certainly did that. And, and when I opened up to people and said, look, I've just done mental health first aid training, the amount of people that would even open up further and say, yep, I'm seeing a psychologist. So I 100% agree with you. I think there's a lot of people running flat outs to catch up, to change, to evolve, but also just people that didn't recognize at the time it wasn't just a health crisis and a financial crisis, but it was a lifestyle crisis. And people didn't really get the impact that lifestyle was having on them. And that's had, I think, the biggest long-term ramifications for people. And that's where I think people are really suffering. But also, the people that were getting the handouts, getting the grants and things, they didn't get it the last year or so. So they've had to fend for themselves. And a lot of them were running really zombie businesses that weren't really doing that well. And now they've had to face facts and go, okay, what do I do now with my business? So that's been a really interesting time. And obviously now we've got the cost of living pressures. People just are cutting back. They just can't afford it.
So what has been your biggest achievement in business?
I think for me, it's the fact that I've done everything myself, which can be a good and bad thing, right? I'm not saying we should do everything ourselves all the time. But for me, I look at the fact that, I left home pretty much when I turned 18, which was my first year of uni. And that was it. See you later, gone. I was out of there. I went and did my own thing all the way. I bought my own first house at 23 with my partner at the time, very much, did everything. Everything was driven from me. So that's one of the things I think I'm most proud of, is the fact that, I have made me. And I am technically a self-made millionaire. I do have net assets of over $1 million. But am I rich? Hell no. And like I said, because of the past year, that's been the way. But, it's good to have that behind you, to say that, hey, I've achieved something, I've created something. But the biggest thing that I get the kick out of is seeing the businesses that I help and the people that I help and seeing what they've created out of it. So I have a personal mission that I have as a personal mission to help 1 million people succeed on their terms in their business or career. And that's something I want to do before I die.
How are you going with the numbers so far?
So obviously I'm not keeping track of like the numbers exactly as they are. We're definitely up into the tens of thousands based on the people that have been to trainings and conferences and, one-on-ones and all that stuff. But obviously over time, my intention is for that to really blow out with when I really get the training business fully running as it should be.
Awesome. It sounds like that's an awesome goal. And 1 million, we've got a population of 20 million. So very achievable. Very achievable.
But it's about making an impact and leaving the world a better place. So I'm very much a believer in that. I believe that we didn't come in this world just to kind of pass some time and off we go. And I know Kylie does past life regression and stuff, but I'm very much a believer that we're here for a reason. We're here to achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for some of us, we work out our purpose and then we can kind of strive towards that. For some people, they never really work out their purpose, and some people are just there to be just amazing human beings that other people just go, that person's awesome. I love that person. And I've seen kind of multiple different people, but for me, I think that support that I can give people to develop themselves, that then supports their family, their community, all that's what spins my wheels. That's what makes me excited.
So that's what motivates you every day to get out of bed?
100%. Yeah. Like, you've got to be paid for it as well. And that's why I said that whole Ikigai, right? You do need to still be recognized and get enough money so that you can get out of bed in the morning. You know, do I need to be a billionaire? No, I definitely do not need to be a billionaire. If I was a billionaire, though, that could then, you know, help a whole bunch more people because of that, maybe, but I'm certainly not striving to be a billionaire. So it's not about money, but it is about, you know, at least getting enough to be comfortable and to not feel that you have to juggle money around like I've had to do in the last wee while just to make sure that everything's paid. And to some extent, that's been good because it's helped me to connect to people that I am dealing with, because some of them are in that boat, right? And sometimes they'll say, oh, you know, I'm dropping this membership because I can't afford $49 a month. And you're like, really? $49 a month? But now I'm seeing that, you know, you do start counting every penny at times. So that's probably made me in some respects, yeah, a little bit more understanding.
And if you come back to it too, in regards to something like that, if they're not implementing what is in there, then they're not maybe seeing what the value is or the changes where that may cover itself, because they're just watching videos, or it's one of the things where they sign up to it and then they never check it again.
And that's what I want them to do, is to actually see the actual differences that it makes. So a really good example is like search engine optimization. I'm very big on that, very focused on that, because I believe it is one of those things that is game changing for so many small businesses, because we can compete and get found for really big terms that big businesses are out there for, but they don't bother with it. They don't care about it. So they don't, yes, they can be found for their name, but the thing that they do, they actually don't get found for that easily. We can compete on that level. And I love that. And I love the fact that we can compete and show ourselves. So when I can show a business that we can go from oblivion to front page, get you from, you know, 1 inquiry a month to 10 inquiries a day, that's game changing, right? And then, you know, then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's not converting that well. Okay, well, where's the problem? Where's the disconnect? Then we go through the conversion process and go, what's part of, you know, where's your messaging? What are you doing? How can we fix that? So I love when I see that happen. And like you say, then the customer realizes, well, crikey, they've made a fortune. And the thing is, even if I look at just during COVID, right, there's clients that made $20,000, $40,000 purely out of watching one video with me, because I told them, actually, you can get help, when their accountant had said they couldn't. And so there's literally people that I know that I still meet now, networking, and they'll go, I followed your video back in 2020. Basically, I got 40 grand out of the government because of you. And you're like, seriously, can't pop me a quick 49 bucks? Sometimes you do question it. You're like, come on. But yeah, like it's great, because I know that I helped that business and that family survive through what was a really tough time. And that's awesome.
So is there any advice you wish someone had given to you when you started your business?
Well, the one piece of advice that I resisted and was told by people not to do this is to spread yourself too thin. And like Kylie, multiple businesses and things, I have also a job search business. And how to job search came about because I was doing resumes for people when I left corporate. And the thing was, I only started that purely because I was good at it. I could help people and make a material difference. An example of a lady that was living in her car, was about to be living in her car with her kids, because she was a Kiwi living in Australia, no money, because there was no handouts or anything. And she'd applied for 250 jobs and not a single callback. And I said to her, look, just chuck me your resume. Let's see if we can work on it. Turned out her resume was just terrible. And we upped it, improved it. She got 5 job offers the next week. So she went from nothing to that, right? And you've made a huge difference to that woman, to her family, to her, to the ongoing, their legacy. That's incredible. But the problem is I was good at it, but I didn't have time to dedicate time to do that business and do the training side and the coaching side. So I love the coaching, the variety and stuff like that. I hate doing resumes. So my intention was to turn it into a resume template business. And initially I tried to do it at the same time. And look what's happened. There is no resume templates up for sale because I tried to do too much together at the same time. So my advice is, yep, you can be multi-passionate. Yes, you can be good at many things, but you really need to focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, I understand that. I get where you're coming with the wanting to do so much, and then, yeah, some things just lapse.
Yeah, and we're human, right?
Exactly.
If we know that we can help someone, we want to help someone. And the thing is, it's just, we've got to remember sometimes, help ourselves first.
Yes, very much so. Because then if we burn out, it's the ramifications around us and what's happening more. So yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, as the expert coach and running the training and the business stuff and the consulting, if you had a tip for anyone, so it's like a taste tester for them to come and stalk you, what would your tip be?
So for somebody that is feeling a bit stuck, they feel like they've tried all the things and it's just not working for them, then yeah, I'm the person that can get them through getting unstuck. So because I do tend to offer, although I've mentioned I have kind of the 2 arms, the one-on-one stuff does tend to be a combination of coach advice and training. And I've decided that that's the best way to work, because coaching is about getting the best out of you from what you already know. And that's awesome if you already know the answer. But if you don't know the answer, then if nobody's filling in the gap for you, how's that going to work? So I then can fill in the gaps for people. So Kylie actually ran a session a few years back and it was #WWJS. What would Jane say? And I literally stood up there and got peppered with questions. And I can do that because I've worked with so many small businesses. I've worked with 1,850 small businesses one-on-one, plus all the many thousands I've done, through coaching, through training sessions, group sessions. But then also I do executive coaching. So I actually coach from someone that's just starting out with a business idea through to people in corporate that have 3,500 employees effectively under them. So that's a big, big span, right? Lots of different insights and intel, but what I do is tailor the situation to you. So like I said, the biggest thing is if you're stuck with anything, whether it's a mindset thing, whether it's a mechanical thing, a learning thing, yeah, reach out, come see me, and I can hopefully get you through it.
I have to say that hashtag, what would Jane say? I have kept that whenever I'm launching something or I'm doing something next. So like when I see a giveaway on Instagram or Facebook, because that's something I notice a lot with small business, I immediately have that. It's like in my subconscious now, what would Jane say? Or before I go to post something out, I'll be like, okay, make sure that I've got the terms and conditions, make sure I've got the links working, make sure that button's there, make sure it's bloody obvious what is being presented, because I can just see Jane looking at it going, what would Jane say? So check in with that.
Yeah. So I actually did a thing which I was going to launch at the start of the year, and again, just too many ideas, too sick to implement it. But I actually created a thing which I could still offer to people, but it's just not marketable at the moment. But voice prompts. So to be that voice in somebody's head. And the example I was giving to people, I don't know if you like this, but I know for me, because I don't have kids, I don't have to do the pickup run. So I don't have that 3 o'clock pickup run. But even in corporate, right, 3 o'clock was kind of always when you hit that 3 o'clock slump. And it's very easy when you're in small business. If you don't have an appointment or something, it's kind of easy to go, look, I'll just go, check my phone or doom scroll or have a, do something like that, right? And what you can do is set your reminders to go off, and you can either set your own reminder, or if you prefer to have somebody like me in your head, because you want to have that, I can go and I set a little one that goes, are you doing something productive? And it literally will go off at 3 o'clock. So they like, oh my God, where's Jane? Here she's in my head. So that was what I created, was something to do that, because and what I was intending to do again with that service, and something, like I said, which will be built out eventually, is to have little scripts and things, so that when people are, they're looking at one of my clients, prime example, if you're listening, you'll know who you are. She constantly picks bad service providers, constantly. And it's like, you're not learning from last time you picked a bad service provider. Can we not learn from our mistakes? And so one of the things I've, would do for somebody like that is give them a little script and going, okay, so you're thinking about signing up to someone, and actually just get them to talk through, to sound out to themselves through a list of prompts that I actually say out loud. Because I think it has more impact, because like you say, you'll remember me saying it rather than just reading, okay, here's a checklist from Jane. No, this is Jane actually saying, so have you just met them for a coffee and you're looking at hiring them? Maybe not good enough, and get them on that right track. So, yeah.
So like a Jane earworm. Well, I have one of those already, but yeah, I like that idea. It's good, because it would, and it's coming from someone else too. So then, people can be like, oh, I haven't heard what Jane's got to say today, or what's Jane's advice. So no, I like, and I feel sorry for your client that keeps picking bad service providers. That's not good.
It's a self-inflicted problem. They know that they keep doing it, and they just keep going into things because they're in a rush. And again, so this is a tip for everybody. We're in a rush sometimes. We just go, just outsource it. But the problem is, if we outsource something not knowing anything, it's like when I see, oh my gosh, I see someone go in a Facebook group and they write, I want someone to do the SEOs. And as soon as I go there, I'll go, oh my God, please don't. Because what they do, of course, is somebody vulture sees that and goes, this person has no idea about search engine optimization. I can take them for a ride. And they do. So, don't be that person that has complete naivety. You've got to make sure you learn some basics first. And that's where something like my training comes into play, because learn some basics first, then you decide whether or not you want to do it yourself. Okay. So my whole motto is learn to do it yourself or outsource with confidence. And that's the key, knowing how to outsource. But I was just mentioning to Kylie earlier, I had a client that's a cafe, and he got really badly ripped off. And the thing that annoys me the most about it was the fact that he knows that if he just talked to me about it, who he was thinking of going with, I would have given him some questions to ask, some things to look at, and there's no way he would have gone with that provider. So it's just like, oh, why did you not just ask the question? And that's frustrating.
No, it is. And as we were talking about before, websites and SEOs, and I'm going to put it out there, but they seem to be the worst at it. Like, I'm sure there's other industries, but even from, I know your experience and the experience I've seen in the communities, it's always around websites and SEO.
So I won't use the word always, as we know we don't want to generalize and distort, but it is very much that's actually why I started FAQ business training, because I'd constantly heard stories of people getting ripped off by website and SEO providers. And I was so frustrated by it. And I'm like, how can I stop this? How can I curb this? So I thought, if I can train people, again, to learn enough to do it themselves or outsource confidently, they would know what questions to ask, how to monitor that provider and not have such a drama. So that was why I started FAQ business training. So I 100% agree. Unfortunately, it's a very unregulated industry full of sharks. There are some decent people out there, but unfortunately, they are just swamped by the rubbish that's out there. And that sucks. It really does.
So if you want to share, what's your ultimate goal for your business?
So my ultimate goal is to have a couple of parts to it, but for the FAQ business training part is really to be the go-to provider of actionable training that is things that people can grab, implement, trust, and know that they're going to be doing the right thing, because that's obviously a big part of it, right? Is who to trust. You hear all these gurus say these things. And even a client I was talking to last week, and she was saying, but all the gurus had said do all these things, and I followed everything, and it was a big failure. And I looked at it, and there was just such glaringly obvious mistakes that were made. And I was like, stop listening to everybody else. Make sure. So I've got a big thing this year about you do you, and very much make sure that you do you, except for when you doesn't work. So if what you're doing is working, keep going with it. If it's not working, then yes, change. But don't just go, okay, the guru says I have to get up at 5 a.m. and do my hour of power and do my journaling and do that. As Kylie and I knows, I am very much a night owl. Getting up at 5 a.m. is torture. And because I'm an extrovert and I get energy from others, as you might have told, because I'm getting more animated, because I do that, the last thing I want to do is force myself to get up against my normal body clock of getting up, and in addition do an hour of introverted quiet activity. Oh my God, that's like, you're going to start bad and go worse, right? I'm not even going to be able to function for the rest of the day. So that's something that you've got to look into, is respecting your own thoughts and processes and knowing what you're doing is the right thing for you. So you know what? The most productive time of the day for you is your most productive time of the day. It is not 5 a.m. in the morning because some guru told you to.
Yes. And I think that's so important, because we all have different, like I'm a night owl as well. And I've seen you on Jane at about 2-3 a.m. and we're both, because for me, that's most productive. It might sound weird, but it's most productive. The world's quiet, my kids are quiet, and I can just get everything done. But then I don't get up. There's no way I'd be getting up at 5 o'clock, unless the only time I see 5 o'clock is if I've been partying or distracted while I'm doing work to 5 and went, okay, I've got to go to bed now.
Yeah, exactly. You've stayed up. And I have done that in the hallway. My partner gives me grief that every now and then we've high-fived in the hallway as he's gone up and I've gone to bed. Yeah, that's happened a few times. But the only other time I would get up for 5 a.m. if I was going on a holiday.
Yes, agree. That's a very big agree.
And then really unlikely, because I'd probably stay at the airport or something rather than have to get up at 5 a.m. So I never want to take that risk on a holiday. I'm not gambling a holiday on an early start. Hello. There's other ways to deal with it.
So where do we stalk you, Jane? How do we find you?
So if you type in Jane Tweedy, Tweedy, or FAQ business training into Google, I am literally everywhere. You will find me 20 pages deep. So if you can't find me, you are blind. So just look me up and you'll find me easy. But my main website is faqbusinesstraining.com.au, and the .com version is my online school. So if you want to go there, join the membership and things, that's where you can go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.